Every winter, North India disappears under a thick cloud of toxic air.
Delhi continues to choke under hazardous air quality.
It's smoggy, it's dusty, and it's polluted.
The headlines blame fireworks or stubble burning, but the real problem lies elsewhere. What if I told you that the very policies that once helped India feed itself are now filling our lungs with smoke? Today's video is not just about Delhi, it's about the entire Gangetic Plain, from Punjab to Bihar, where over 500 million people breathe the same toxic air. In this video, we go beyond the headlines and understand how a complex web of incentives created a problem that no ban or quick fix can solve. Hi, I'm Ronak, the economist on a mission to make economic ideas simple and relatable. Today, we ask two simple questions that impact the lives of nearly 500 million people. Why does North India choke every single winter? And more importantly, what can we do about it? To unpack the first question, we'll break it down into three parts. What are the drivers of pollution? What policies led to the present crisis? And why does government across the board fail to solve this issue? And in the end, we will tackle the big question. What will it take for India to breathe clean again? First, let's understand the terminology. The Air Quality Index, or AQI, looks at different pollutants and creates a score for each. The overall AQI is determined by the pollutant with the worst score. Since PM 2.5 particles are usually the highest level, their score often ends up being the one that drives the AQI value. The PM refers to the size of particles in microns. For instance, PM10 are bigger, dust-like particles that can irritate your nose and throat. PM 2.5 is finer, small enough to enter deep into your lungs and even your bloodstream. This is why PM 2.5 is considered far more dangerous and the one we will focus on when reviewing the evidence. Further, there are different drivers for summer and winter months, and hence we will be looking at data from both these seasons separately. With that out of the way, first, let us recognize that pollution in India is a year-round problem. As you can see in this graph, the median PM 2.5 levels is around 83 micrograms per cubic meter. To put that in perspective, the World Health Organization recommends a limit of 5. Even India's own standard is 40. Yet, most of North India averages between 80 and 110, which is nearly 20 times higher than what is considered safe. The reason pollution catches headlines in the winter months is because AQI levels spike so dramatically that pollution becomes visible, turning into the thick grey haze that poisons our lungs. But here is what most people miss. People generally blame firecrackers and farmers. But let's really look at the data and see what it tells us. In the summer months, transport and road dust are the largest contributors to pollutant loads. Together, these two categories account for over a third of load across studies. This is what experts call dispersed sources of pollution. What this means is that a large and annually steady share of smog does not come from something dramatic, like a farmer burning a field. It comes from the everyday things we take for granted, like cars stuck in traffic and dust from broken roads or construction sites. Because these sources are constant, they quietly add up. And what about stubble burning, the most politically charged of this debate? Studies show that biomass and agricultural residue can contribute up to 30% of winter PM 2.5. Stubble burning and firecrackers are what push pollution levels over the tipping point, making life in North India insufferable. Add to this the geography of the Gangetic Plain, where cold air gets trapped under a warm layer of winter, we get the perfect recipe for smog that refuses to leave. So it is important for us to recognize that pollution is not a winter crisis, but a year-round problem. The only reason it dominates headlines every winter is because it becomes a scene problem. And every winter, the camera finds the same shot of a farmer setting fire to his field. But here's the twist. that fire is a symptom of a deeper policy failure. So, let's understand how well-intentioned policies created the stubble burning crisis. But for that, let's go back a few decades. In the 1960s and 70s, India faced a fruit crisis. To become self-sufficient, the government incentivized farmers in Punjab and Haryana to grow wheat and paddy, high-yield crops that could feed the nation. Minimum support prices guaranteed a buyer, and free electricity made irrigation cheap. Over time, Punjab and Haryana became India's grain bowl. But as paddy cultivation expanded from just 2 lakh hectares to over 30 lakh hectares, groundwater levels started collapsing. In 2009, the Punjab government introduced a law to conserve water, delaying the paddy transplantation until after the monsoon arrived. That one well-intentioned reform changed everything. With just 3 to 4 weeks left to clear fields, burning became the cheapest way to prepare for the next crop. So, when we see those fires from satellites or news footage, it's not some evil farmer choosing to pollute, but farmers responding to incentives. Free power, assured procurement, cheap fertilizer, and a narrow harvest window together builds a cycle that is economically efficient for the farmer but environmentally disastrous for everyone else. So, if the roots of this problem lie in the incentives, the next question is obvious. Why do our policies keep failing? Every year, as air in North India turns toxic, governments announces measures like bans, awareness drives, and even emergency task forces.
Back home, as far as Delhi is concerned, it's a big Delhi vehicle ban that we're telling you about. The government has constituted an enforcement task force of 5 members.
But nothing changes. This is because policies treat pollution like a short-term event and not a structural year-round problem. Take for example stubble burning. Each winter, the government offers subsidies for machines like Happy Seeder. But the economics simply don't add up for most farmers. Managing residue can cost between 1,000 and 1,500 rupees per acre, and renting equipment within a short frame is not always easy. The result? Burning remains the most optimal choice for farmers. And then there are bans on crackers, on cars, on construction, and even paddy varieties like Pusa 44. These ideas sound decisive, but the impact is marginal. The policies don't fail because people don't care, but because the economics of polluting is far more powerful than the politics of clean air. So, what we end up with is a cycle. Each year, pollution peaks in October and November. Government responds with visible measures. But rain arrives in January and air quality starts improving. And the public pressure fades. And this pattern repeats. So what would it take for India to finally breathe clean again? Let's solve this by applying a simple economic principle. Fixed prices, not choices. First, let us remove all existing price distortions. For decades, free electricity, guaranteed procurement, and fertilizer subsidies have made it profitable to grow a water-hungry crop in a water-stressed region. Now, I recognize that agriculture reform is a political kryptonite. But reforms become political suicide when we complain about pollution but punish anyone who tries to fix it. So, if 500 million people in North India want clean air and better income for farmers, then let's vote for market-focused reforms. Next, we need to price in the pollution externality. When pollution is free, we get more of it. When it costs money, people innovate. A modest pollution fee will go a long way in pricing in the pollution externality. If we can use satellite data to track the area being burnt, we can certainly identify and tax landowners who are burning. For drivers such as industrial sources or brick kilns, having an emission trading market where industries trade the right to emit under a fixed cap will make a real difference. For example, in Gujarat, a pilot emission trading scheme cut particulate pollution by nearly 30% without impacting output. And unlike bans, it worked through incentives, not threats. Third, let's clearly define the liability. We can't assign private ownership over air, but we can make large, identifiable polluters such as factories, kilns, construction sites, or even farmlands strictly liable for measurable breaches. A performance bond system where deposits are refunded only after verified compliance will make the rule automatic and self-enforcing. And lastly, the government needs to focus on coordination, measurement, and transparency. Air does not stop at state borders, so the clean air strategy shouldn't either. Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh need a joint platform to share emission inventories, align standards, and publish progress openly. History shows that when governments try and micromanage, they often trade one problem for another. But when they set clear rules and let markets determine prices, cleaner, smarter decisions are likely to follow. So, what can we expect if we start fixing distortions and start pricing in the externality? Once pollution has a real price, something interesting happens. Farm residue stops being a waste and starts becoming a resource. Feedstock for biomass energy, packaging, or biofuel. Markets take over, not because the government orders them to, but because it simply becomes profitable. The same thing happens in cities. When dust reduction is measured and valued, contractors innovate to deliver cleaner roads. And when air data is granular and real-time, citizens and entrepreneurs start building tools to track, compare, and pressurize polluters far more effectively than any regulator ever could. So no matter what policy intervention the government chooses, if there is one principle to remember when dealing with an externality, it is to fix prices, not choices. Make pollution costly, make clean behavior rewarding, and then step aside. Because yes, pollution has many drivers: vehicles, dust, industry, agriculture. But the solution is the same. Review the incentives, correct the distortions, and price in the system. And let markets solve the rest. But before we close this video, let us also remember that pollution rises sharply when countries first industrialize and urbanize, but begins to fall once incomes, institutions, and technology catch up. For instance, London's smog cleared up when UK could finally afford cleaner fuels. Beijing's air quality improved once China crossed the $10,000 per capita income mark. For India, we are growing, but we are still not rich enough to replace the system everywhere. So the only way out is through. Not by slowing progress, but by growing faster. Growth will bring cleaner technology, efficient governance, and citizens who will not just expect clean air, but have the means to pay for it. We began this video with a simple question. Why does North India choke every year? Every smog-filled morning must remind us that intentions alone don't clean the air. Incentives do. The day we get that right, the haze will lift. Not just from our skies, but from how we think about progress. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Share it with people to spread awareness about the real drivers of pollution. And make sure you're subscribed